Before I get started today, if my content is something that you enjoy, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell and you can get notifications every time I make a new video. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you could do one or more of those things, it would really help my channel to grow, feed my ego, appease the algorithm gods, and help me to make more content just like this. It's that time of year again. When the sun gets hot, the people get hotter, and every man and his dog ditches their shirts so we can all get a look at the wanky tattoos they spent this year's tax return on. There are more Southern Crosses etched into human skin than you can shake a sausage at. As if we are all subconsciously concerned that we'll somehow forget that we're all in the Southern Hemisphere. In this great Southern land, we celebrate Christmas with a durry in one hand and a beer in the other, eating our own body weight in snags, ham, turkey, prawns, mince pies, and finishing it all off with a healthy serving of Nan's famous pavlova topped with cream and seasonal fruit. Before we all run off before the washing up needs to be done, followed by binge drinking and death by heat stroke. It's actually not that hot this year, to tell the truth. Around the start of the year, a volcano erupted near Tonga. It was among the largest on record, sending massive amounts of water vapor into the stratosphere, like gigaliters, exacerbating the effects of climate change that we're already having, changing weather patterns, and contributing to some of the worst flooding events that we have ever had. The floods have also killed and displaced countless animals, whose ecosystems are still recovering from the bushfires of 2019. So if you could donate something, please do. It really is heartbreaking all that's happened this year. I only have a small audience, but even if only one of you gives something, I'll feel like I've made some sort of a difference. And the rainy season has only just begun. This stuff started early. But if you can't donate, don't feel bad. I mean, this year has been rough on all of us. So to cheer us up, here's my top 5 Christmas specials from Big Finish. Ordered least expensive to most expensive, because I'm not blind to the fact that these stories cost a fortune. Big Finish is a wonderful company and have created some of the best Doctor Who that's ever Doctor Who'd, but I also want to save you a buck. You need to know your limits with Big Finish, lest the debt collectors come bashing down your door to collect your fingers. Also, by the way, I'm using Aussie bucks because I'm Aussie. They're like 68 American cents. So starting things off, at the low price of 541 Aussie bucks, which, honestly, I think they put the price up on that one. It used to be like 3 or something. It might have been a special. I don't know. You can get them for free on Spotify. Giants at Midnight. Christmas isn't always happiness and plum pudding. It can be a melancholic time of depression, loneliness, and despair. Giants of Midnight, set on Christmas Eve, is an Edwardian ghost story, in the form of a murder mystery where Agatha Christie stock characters are killed in the most elaborate and macabre ways, every hour on the hour, until the clock reaches midnight. And the Doctor and Charlie are forced into the role of detectives and become trapped in a never-ending loop of suffering and despair, with no exit in sight, but all the plum pudding they can eat. I've already talked about this one in my guide to the 8th Doctor series, so I'll leave it at that for now. Just know that this one is an instant classic, among the first of the Big Finish catalogues with merit of vinyl release, and required listening in my view. Even if you're not a Doctor Who fan, you will get something out of this. And you can get it for free on Spotify if you live in the UK or Australia, and that's a very good price. Next, to continue the tradition of bitter-sweet yet uplifting Christmas specials, at $9.03, we have Death in Blackpool. This is part of the 8th Doctor Adventures range. The idea behind this range was to appeal to new Who fans. Instead of an Edwardian adventuress, or a history teacher in her 50s, or a shape-shifting talking penguin pirate eye named Frobisher, the Doctor now travels with a fiery young lady from contemporary Blackpool, named Lucy Bleeding Miller. Lucy was their answer to Rose, but with all of Donna's snark. She's a perfect marrying of the two characters, and her own person, and I bloody love her. She's my second favourite next to Charlie. At this point, she's been travelling with the Doctor for a while, and she decides to take him home for Christmas with her family. So they're knocking on her mum's door when the Doctor realises that he got the year wrong, and they're nearly greeted by Lucy from a couple of years ago before she materialised into the TARDIS. That's okay though, they're with Auntie Pat, who is like a second mum for Lucy, and they are joined by a homeless guy who's convinced that he's actually Santa Claus and keeps getting drunk, singing Christmas carols, and periodically trying to kill himself.
It's Christmas!
Simmer down, you in the back!
So they're off to make the best of a bad situation when the episode stops completely dead and Lucy is hit by a lorry and is hospitalised in a coma. On the brink of death, she finds herself astrally projecting from her body, watching the Doctor and her Auntie Pat react to the situation.
I don't know what you think you're doing, but she needs us now.
No time.
You're not listening.
Give me your car keys, Pat. I have to bring the TARDIS here. I can't leave Lucy's life in the hands of primitives.
The doctors and nurses, they know what they're doing.
Well-meaning primitives, yes, but primitives all the same keys.
You're not thinking straight.
And she's not alone in this dreamscape. A mysterious figure is urging her to slip off the mortal coil and just fall into that sweet oblivion so that the other patients can have her organs. This story features themes of depression and suicide, so if you're sensitive to those topics, give it a miss and please look after yourself. It's also an episode where Lucy leaves the TARDIS and is the conclusion of a lot of plot threads for her arc, so why would you even start with this one? listen to Blood of the Daleks. As a conclusion of an arc, it doesn't really work well on its own, but as a finale, it is very well written, bittersweet, and very heartfelt, so I couldn't help but put it on this list. Next, at the same price, we have Relative Dimensions. Set after death in Blackpool, Lucy has largely forgiven the Doctor and has returned to the TARDIS, although she does see him in a different light now. With all that's gone on in the Doctor's life recently, the Doctor realises that Christmas is a time for family, so he invites his granddaughter Susan and her son Alex to come to the TARDIS for Christmas dinner. And Lucy does all the work while the Doctor tries to figure out what to get his 18-year-old grandson. The dinner is perfect, things are turning out excellently, but the bat creatures that live in the cloisters keep showing up dead and burned to a crisp. And there's this giant silvery zappy fish thing, with a guy riding on its back in a suit that keeps materialising every now and then. But nothing is going to stop the Doctor from giving his family the Christmas they deserve. The Doctor's great-grandson is played by Jake McGann, Paul McGann's actual son. He's a spitting image of his dad and seems to be just as talented. Also, Carol Ann Ford is playing Susan like she did back in the 60s. But this version of the character is far more responsible, a little bit more jaded, and very aware that the Doctor isn't exactly the best influence for her son. This isn't the first time that the 8th Doctor has seen them either. In the audio An Earthly Child, he finally decided to go back and check on Susan after 7 lifetimes of not bothering. After he abandoned her and fucked up future Earth, after humanity had been ravaged by a Dalek invasion and occupation when they tried to turn the Earth into a Death Star. She is absolutely wonderful in this, and Susan has absolutely no patience for her grandfather's bullshit. This story is whimsical, wholesome, just plain silly at times, and you should definitely give it a listen. Going up in price to $23.51, we have Blood on Santa's Claw and Other Stories. This isn't a single story, but a series of short stories all wrapped together, all revolving around Christmas themes, and linked together by Time Lord lore and other stuff that I can't really get into without giving the game away. It's the 6th Doctor story, and his companion Perry has a new boyfriend, who I assume is part of the 80s music industry. I mean, he's not anyone in particular in the real world. He's just a guy who keeps name-dropping a lot of people. I'm just going to focus on the first story because it's by far the most interesting. They arrive in the 59th century, an era of history the Doctor usually makes a point to avoid, but he can't for the life of him remember why. The TARDIS lands in an underground mine where Perry's boy immediately meets the cast of the Wind and Willows, and Perry and the Doctor discover a dead Santa Claus. And the Doctor puts on his coat and his boots because the Santa Claus rules really should apply here. The people in charge seem to be LARPing characters from Shakespeare plays, and are very keen that Santa and his elf assistant, Periwinkle, get to work rooting out subversion and an inquisition and to please interrogate Mr. Rat at their earliest convenience.
Why would I, Father Christmas, want to torture anyone?
I promise this all makes sense.
Science had taken every miracle and made them commonplace. Resurrection, walking on water, reincarnation, life from death. In short, everyone stopped believing.
Some people would say that's no bad thing.
That's true, but it's not a black and white issue. Religion underpins a lot of people's lives and gives them purpose. The Earth government, in its wisdom, decreed that if you believed in something, anything, that was good enough. Architecture, gardening, collecting comic books, musical theatre, football teams, Winston Churchill, steam trains, the books of J.R.R. Tolkien, old television programmes, pop stars.
The followers of the Wind and the Willows get surgery to resemble its characters and spend their days mucking around in boats and stuff, until they're forced to work in the mines by the Shakespeareans, who dress and talk as if they are characters from one of Shakespeare's plays.
I am Cordelia, in charge of goodness and fealty. There is Iago, who runs the treachery department, and the other one.
Beware, beware, doom will befall us all.
She is in charge of dire portent.
And the Santas are the Inquisitors, who uphold the law in inquisitorial fashion. They're the perfect people for the job, really, because after all, he's making a list, he's checking it twice, he's got to find out if you're naughty or nice. He knows when you are sleeping, and he knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good. So be good, for goodness sake! And this is why the Doctor avoids the 59th century.
It is a silly place.
This story is just the right amount of insanity, with a plot that makes it all worthwhile. It reminds me of something from the early days of Big Finish, but it only came out a few years ago. It's experimental and forms a great basis for what's to come. Like, for example, a story where they infiltrate a clinic that takes designer babies to a whole new level by creating simulations of your children which you can interact with to see what they'll be like to raise. And if you don't like one, you can just discard them and keep the ones that you do like. And these simulations may or may not be sentient. There's also a story with a lovely party party with silver robots and silver everywhere, and also lots and lots of mistletoe, where nobody's allowed to leave. It ends with a bunch of Time Lord lore, which I'm not going to go into. Give this one a listen, it will blow your mind with silliness and Christmas, and lots of Christmassy Christmas, and Christmassy Christmas. Also, it deals with a lot of really interesting sci-fi ideas in the most insane Christmassy Christmas way possible. Finally capping off this list, we have You Better Watch Out and A Fairy Tale in Salzburg. At this point, most of you will be priced out. This is a two-parter from the second Ravenous box set, part of the 8th Doctor range of overpriced box sets like Dark Eyes and Doom Coalition, all of which contain excellent stories that totally work on their own without the context of the full box set, yet are impossible to buy individually. Something that doesn't make any sense to anyone, especially seeing as the idea behind Ravenous in the first place was to make less serialized stories that could totally work on their own. This is why you have a piracy problem. Piracy isn't just done by people who want to steal stuff, it's a service problem. If you make your stories as part of a set and charge an insane price, people will take one look at that and go to a torrent site. But sell them individually for a reasonable price, and if they like what they hear, they will buy the rest of the box set in time. That's how it works with the monthly plays. Hell, it's how you're doing the 10th Doctor sets. Why aren't you doing it for these? Sell them individually, advertise them correctly, and you'd make a killing. Especially these ones, because these stories work very, very well on their own. Don't worry, I didn't get a pirate copy. I got it for half off when Big Finish had one of their sales. They have them every now and then, you've just got to have a look at the homepage, but it's still ridiculous.
Right, so while I was editing this, they put it on special. So yeah, I can definitely recommend it now. You should buy it. That's a decent price.
After all the shit that the 8th Doctor and his companions Liv and Helen have gone through, the Doctor decides to treat them to A Christmas in Salzburg. For Helen, who's from 1963 England, it's all very normal, but for Liv, she's from the planet Keldor in humanity's future, the planet with these robots on it. So all this Christmassy Christmas stuff is all very strange and new for her. While the Doctor and Helen are teaching Liv the meaning of Christmas, a mother and daughter are wondering what they're going to have for the next meal. Their heartless landlord has thrown them out in the cold on Christmas Eve, and as the Doctor saves a different family from the same fate by throwing money at the bastard until he goes away, the daughter of the first family is making a wish. She wished that the Krampus will come to Salzburg and drag the landlord to the fiery pits of hell where he will suffer for all eternity. Her wish is granted, but the landlord isn't the only one who gets punished. Everyone has done something wrong at some point. So the entire town is being punished. Everyone is being dragged down to hell. Now, I'm an Australian, so this Krampus stuff is very new to me. We don't have it here. This is actually the first time I've ever come across the concept. As far as I can tell, Santa is the carrot while the Krampus is a stick. Do all your chores, eat your vegetables, and don't be too annoying, and Father Christmas will sneak into the house and give you presents. But if you're a rotten little shit, then the Krampus will come and drag your selfish little ass to hell. By the way, he looks like this. Now, sweet dreams, nighty night. Seriously, why? This is truly a brilliant Christmas story. It is dark, twisted, somewhat convoluted, but it truly illustrates the meaning of the season. It shows Christmas as a time of forgiveness, for charity, for helping each other out, just being good to each other and shunning any bastard who isn't. It also pays homage to a cinematic holiday classic. So that's my top picks for stuff to listen to on Christmas. I have a few things in the works at the moment, but I will be moving soon, so there may be a small period where I can't do content. I may just do some easy to make character profiles or something to keep the algorithm happy. But wherever you are this holiday season, Merry Christmas, have a wonderful New Year, and if you don't celebrate Christmas, happy holidays to you, mate. Enjoy the break anyway. Have lots of food, drink, and company, and I'll see you in the new year. Here's hoping it will be better than the last one.